Good afternoon, everyone. Can we please have a motion to reconvene into open session?
I'll move.
Second? I'll second. At 7:07 p.m.
Aye or nay? J. Gonzalez, absent with notice. Steinfeld, aye. Pallas?
Aye.
Butler?
Aye.
W. Gonzalez, absent with notice. Jimenez?
Aye.
Drenth?
Aye.
Motion carried. Roll
Thank you.
call. I'll do it again. Here or present. Jimenez?
Here.
Butler?
Here.
Drenth?
Here.
Pallas?
Here.
Steinfeld, here.
Thank you, everyone. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Jimenez. I'm the president of the school board in District 100. To my left is Dr. Mary Havis, our superintendent. If you need any type of translations, do we have anyone? Oh, sorry, we don't have anyone today. But if you need me to translate, let me know if you don't understand. Si necesitan que les traduzca, por favor díganme para que les pueda traducir en español. Gracias.
All right, good evening, everyone. I see some eager students out there that are joining us tonight. We're very excited to see you here and your families. So we're going to kick off the superintendent's report with our school spotlight, which is Irving Elementary tonight. So we want to welcome up Mr. Marty Stahura and Miss Sally Ziegler for the spotlight for Irving.
Thanks, Mary. As Mary said, I'm Marty. I'm the proud principal of Irving, and Sally's here by my side, and we have a great presentation and some wonderful students to recognize. With most of our presentations, we like to start with our core values. We hold these in high regards, and we refer to them often when we're making decisions. Hopefully tonight we'll weave in a lot of them throughout our presentation. We're specifically going to hit growth and high expectations and student-centered and engaging with families as a lot of what we're doing at Irving. Similar to the rest of the elementary schools, we follow the school district vision of inspiring a passion for learning in every child. And our mission at Irving is we're committed to fostering a safe and supportive learning environment, empowering every student to achieve their full academic potential through rigorous instruction. Finally, our school motto, which our students know well, see it, be it, believe it, achieve it. But I'm going to turn it over to Sally, and she's going to talk a little bit about the students we're going to recognize tonight.
Be the change you wish to see in the world is a powerful statement, a call to action urging us to take responsibility for our own lives and the world around us. Instead of waiting for others to make a difference, we must actively take the initiative, beginning with changing our own behaviors and choices. It is only then that we have the power to inspire others, to shape our destinies, and change our communities. Let's not dream of a better world, let's create it. Today, we celebrate the passion projects developed by the students in our Accelerated Club. Their journey began with researching various communities and applying key community characteristics to our Irving school. After examining our own community, they challenged the status quo, identified meaningful problems, conducted in-depth research, and devised innovative solutions. Our first group, comprised of Jay, Lucas, and Kingsley, turned their attention to fitness and healthy living. They recognized that many students spent too much time on screens after school. Kingsley said it best, life is more than being on the phone or iPad. To experience life, you gotta go out and be with your friends. Together, they created a fitness calendar filled with various activities to encourage physical fitness. Students who completed the tasks signed the calendar and uploaded pictures to Seesaw, motivating others through shared experiences. This group also launched a healthy eating campaign, displaying photos of students trying nutritious foods throughout the building. Their project accumulated in a raffle, with health-related prizes promoting wellness school-wide. Our next group, Joey, Wyatt, and Lucy, noticed that students lacked consistent information about school events. While parents, teachers, and other stakeholders received a lot of communication, students were often left out. To address this, they created a student newspaper to keep their peers informed of school events. They distributed their newspaper via Google Slides to every student in the building on a weekly basis. Uretzi, Amelia, Charles, and Gerardo determined that student voice was a missing component of our Irving community. Their solution was a digital podcast, a platform where students' voices could be heard. Topics such as lack of clubs for older students, school lunches, and collective or group consequences were covered. They interviewed their peers and had guest speakers to ensure diverse perspectives were heard. And finally, Jacob, Elsa, and Harper focused on increasing student voice and choice in the library. They wanted to encourage their peers to read more for enjoyment. After interviewing Ms. Rangel, our school librarian, they identified the most popular books and determined whether additional copies were needed due to demand or damage. They also conducted a Google survey to gather input from the entire student body. To fund the purchase of new books, they organized one of the most successful book sales in the history of the world, raising over $400. Thanks to their efforts, their library now features books selected and purchased by students for their peers. Today, we celebrate the incredible work of these students who have embodied the spirit of change. They haven't just talked about making a difference, they've taken action. They've shown that even the smallest steps can create significant impact. Let's be inspired by their stories and commit to making a positive change in our own lives and communities. These students have all earned the Portrait of a Graduate Advocate Award, so they could please come forward along with Ms. Perez, their teacher and Accelerated Club leader.
Parents, you're welcome to come up and take a picture.
We're all extremely proud of those students, and there's a few even that have moved on here to Heritage that came back tonight to be recognized for what they did for our school last school year. So thanks again. One last round of applause for all of our students. All right, we're going to move on and talk a little bit about how Irving's doing as a school. Last month, Mary reported about the school district report card. Tonight, we thought we would start with the Irving school report card. Like she said, the school report card is built of the academic indicators and the school quality and success indicators. For tonight's presentation, we're just going to quickly zoom in on the academic indicators to see how Irving's performing. So first up is our ELA proficiency. This is the Illinois Assessment of Readiness assessment that we give to 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders for English language arts. And these are our proficiency scores over the last 4 school years. So you can see we're trending in the right direction with our green and blue getting bigger and our red and orange getting smaller each year. This next slide is our ELL proficiency data in comparison to the District 100 and also the state. So you can see we're slightly above the school district and slightly below the state. This is our ELA growth, so this is how all students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, how they're growing from one year to the next. So it's great to see that each year, we're getting better and better at helping all of our students grow in ELA. Moving to math, we're seeing similar trends. Green is getting bigger, red is getting smaller, orange is getting smaller, so all great signs for things in math. Our math proficiency data, I think this is one thing that we're particularly proud of because we stand out, especially when we compare ourselves to the District 100 in the state, that we're just well above where the district is performing, where the state is performing, and we're doing a great job at math. And then same as ELA, we're just doing better each year, helping all students grow, regardless if they're, on the lower end or the higher end of the spectrum in making their growth projections. This is our growth percentile and compared to the district in the state last year, so how much we grew from one year to the next in IAR for ELA and math, left to right. And then our science proficiency assessment. So we give this test to 5th graders. This one's hard to see trends because it's a new group of students every year, so it's hard to compare how they're growing. But really what we're looking there is just how are we performing in comparison to the school district and the state. And we're right there again, a little bit above the school district and a little bit below the state, so doing well in science. Finally, our English language proficiency assessment. So our English language learners take a test called the Access Test once a year, and it assesses how their language is progressing. Last year, we had our highest number of students meet the bridging mark, so that means they no longer need English language supports because their language is at a proficient level, so very proud of that. Then finally, we looked at how our EL students were performing on IAR. So they take it just like everyone else, and they're a subgroup. And when we look at our EL subgroup on ELA and math, we can see, we're performing very well in comparison to the school district and the state. So all great things. I mean, all in all, Irving is thriving. Malcolm Gladwell, a Canadian journalist, author, and public speaker, is known for his insightful and engaging writing style. He often explores unexpected connections and patterns in human behavior. Sally and I, we recently read his book, Outliers, which helped us identify many factors contributing to this success at Irving. At the beginning of his book, Gladwell uses the analogy of a mighty oak tree to illustrate the concept of success. An acorn, seemingly insignificant, possesses the potential to become a majestic, long-lasting tree. However, Gladwell emphasizes that it's not just the quality of the acorn that determines its growth, or another way to put it, the best acorn doesn't always grow the biggest tree. The conditions in which it grows is what's most important. If the acorn lands in fertile soil, bathed in sunlight, and protected from pests, it typically produces a mighty oak tree. If it falls on barren ground, starved of water and light, the results suffer. Similarly, human potential isn't solely about innate talent. It's about the circumstances that nurture or hinder that talent. Gladwell highlights the importance of factors like timing, opportunity, and mentorship in shaping success. For example, Bill Gates benefited from being in the right place at the right time. He had the fortunate circumstance of growing up a short bike ride away from the University of Washington, which had a supercomputer accessible to the public during off-peak hours. He was also significantly influenced by the era in which he grew up. The early days of personal computing provided a unique opportunity for individuals like Gates, Steve Jobs, and Bill Joy with a passion for technology to make a significant impact. Similarly, Irving is thriving because of a combination of favorable conditions. We have a strong foundation, a supportive community, and dedicated educators. Reflecting on our own achievements, Sally and I have identified several conditions that we believe are unique to Irving and have helped our school move closer to realizing its full potential. The first favorable condition at Irving is the experience of our staff. Gladwell introduces the 10,000-hour rule in his book, explaining that mastery in any field requires approximately 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. Nowhere is this more evident than in sports. For example, Serena Williams, a tennis legend, didn't achieve greatness without countless hours of dedicated practice. Her father famously trained both Serena and her sister Venus relentlessly, preparing them to dominate their sport. In education, mastery requires similar dedication, not just in teaching, but in supplementary work like planning, reflection, and professional development. At Irving, 10 out of 12 of our general education teachers have logged over a decade of experience within District 100. They've accumulated the 10,000 practice hours Gladwell points to as necessary for achieving mastery. Research consistently shows that effective teaching is the single most important factor in student success. The substantial experience of our staff, combined with time spent on professional growth, has definitely created a favorable condition for student achievement at Irving. The second favorable condition at Irving is our student enrollment. I'd love to say our teachers keep returning because of our wonderful administration. That might play a part, but we've also benefited from a reduction in school size over the past few years. Typically, when Mary shares the decline in student numbers, my initial reaction is anxiety. I can't help but wonder if people are leaving because they are unhappy. However, this reduction has had an unexpected benefit: fewer grade levels sections while maintaining our support staff. With fewer positions to fill, especially during a teacher shortage, we've been able to prioritize quality over quantity. This has allowed us to build a strong team of well-prepared educators that know how to manage student behavior and have a good understanding of how to teach. This consistency and stability have helped us focus on what matters most: student learning. Families are one of the most critical factors in nurturing the potential of our students. Irving families not only support their own children, but also contribute to the overall well-being of our school community. I often think back to learning to ride a bike as a child. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of support. My father, ever the encourager, took off my training wheels when I was 3 years old. To be honest, I think he took them off because my bike was such a hunk of junk that the training wheels weren't keeping me balanced, and I wasn't using them anyway. But I do remember the mix of fear and excitement as I prepared to take my first ride. I stood at the top of our block with my dad behind me, and as I looked down the sidewalk, our entire neighborhood was lined up to cheer me on. With their support, I mustered the courage to pedal forward. As I took off, I heard cheers of "Way to go, Marty." The pride and sense of accomplishment were thrilling. And just this Halloween, I was reminded of that memory. Leading the Halloween parade, I walked onto the blacktop and saw what seemed like hundreds of families lined up to support our students. The feeling of pride and community was overwhelming. I imagine our students felt a similar sense of joy and encouragement just as I did during my bike ride. As we passed by families, the cheering got louder. Some parents even made signs. It was a beautiful reminder of the strong culture of family involvement we've cultivated at Irving. Our PTO, led by Erica Harris, plays a key role in fostering this connection. They organize events, volunteer their time, and create a welcoming environment. By helping parents connect with the school and each other, they've strengthened our community. Families also step up at home, practicing reading and math with their children to reinforce classroom learning. Our commitment to accessibility through regular communication, open door policies, and family events has encouraged active participation. This consistency and continuity have contributed to a positive in-school climate. Irving has become a true community hub, a safe, inclusive space for families to connect and grow. The support of our families is undoubtedly a major favorable condition on our success. Together, we are creating a bright future for our students.
Gladwell extensively discusses the Matthew effect, illustrating how success is not solely determined by individual talent or effort, but is often influenced by a combination of factors, including opportunity. Individuals accumulate advantages or disadvantages over time, often based on their initial circumstances. To give you some context, the inequities we observe today in the distribution and trends of household wealth in our country exemplify the Matthew effect in action. The well-known adage, the rich get rich and the poor get poor, perfectly illustrates how those with existing advantages tend to accumulate more, while those without resources fall farther behind. As educators, this concept underscores the importance of providing equitable opportunities. We must recognize how initial advantages can lead to further success and ensure that all students have access to the resources, support, and expectations they need to thrive. Tonight, I will share with you 3 stories, each highlighting an outlier in our data and the context behind these exceptional numbers. These stories reflect moments when we intentionally, but also inadvertently, created favorable conditions that allowed our students to be nurtured and flourish. Writing. 4 years ago, we directed our efforts, resources, and school improvement initiatives towards enhancing writing. Like many other schools after the pandemic, we recognize this is a critical area that needed focused attention. Our first step was ensuring alignment among our curriculum, assessment, and instruction. When any organization undergoes significant change, several factors must be in place for success. It starts with a common vision, a shared understanding of our goals. We began this process co-creating a shared vision and understanding of what we wanted our students to know and be able to do in writing. Our initial goal was enhancing writing, aligning curriculum instruction, and developing a shared vision, all lofty goals. But we maintained a precise focus on grade level expectations, and alongside these intentional efforts emerged another favorable condition that in hindsight was equally instrumental in our success. By scaffolding learning up and holding grade level expectations, we established consistent and ambitious standards for every student in our care. This approach assured that all students had equitable access to high expectations from their teachers. Research consistently demonstrates that when teachers set and believe in high expectations, students are more than likely to rise to the challenge. Time and time again, we saw our students progress from writing strings of letters and incomplete sentences to drafting well-formed narratives and clear organization. Students wrote essays that introduced topics effectively and used evidence and facts to support their thinking. This chart clearly shows that success of our writing initiatives. However, with most significant achievements, this success resulted from a combination of factors. Here you can observe the Matthew effect in action. Our students benefited from consistently and being immersed in an environment of high expectations. Over time, these accumulated advantages had a profound and lasting impact. Math. Here's Irving's math data compared to D100 in the state of Illinois. We're extremely proud to be performing well above expectations. But why? What favorable conditions have we created? What opportunities do our students have? Simply put, our staff. Here you see 195 years of combined experiences, a staff who has on average 2 more years of experience than that of the national average. And maybe most importantly, tens of thousands, and in many cases, hundreds of thousands of math minutes taught in their careers. It is only with this experience, this 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, that comes a deep understanding of the content, as well as mastery of effective instructional strategies. Just like Bo knew baseball, Irving knows math. Our staff has been implementing a research-based curriculum effectively for the past 6 years. In addition to experience, most teachers have enjoyed stability within their grade level assignments, allowing them to teach the same standards and expectations consistently over the years. During the challenging period of COVID-19 and remote learning, they demonstrated exceptional adaptability in successfully transitioning our math curriculum to online teaching. All of these factors provided opportunities for our staff to deepen their content knowledge and perfect their craft. Their experience is an advantage. Our math scores reflect this commitment. By learning from highly skilled educators and our students have gained an invaluable advantage, an inspiring example of the Matthew effect in action. Ms. House. Another favorable condition that contributes to exceptional achievement and opportunity in circumstances, access to rigorous curriculum, material, and instruction. Most people my age probably remember ability reading groups in early elementary school. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, they were usually named after various birds or colors. Their names were by no means inconspicuous. Everyone in my second grade class knew the robins struggled with reading and the bluebirds were the smartest. What we didn't know and what we didn't understand, that was because the bluebirds were deemed the smartest, they had access and opportunity to the best stuff, the most rigorous curriculum, the most challenging instruction, the most interesting books, the chance to excel. These seemingly insignificant opportunities, a reading group, actually accumulated into huge advantages that compound over time and lead to significant disparities in outcomes and possibilities. External factors in our district have driven all students, regardless of circumstance or need, to engage in the core instruction at increasingly higher rates. This shift has expanded their exposure to grade-level curriculum, elevated expectations, and greater academic rigor. As a result, much of the responsibility has fallen on our general education teachers, like Ms. House. Ms. House is an extraordinary teacher, and her colleagues have said it best. Ms. House's third grade classroom is a perfect example of what happens when you give kids the repeated opportunity of rigor, the repeated opportunity to excel, and the repeated opportunity to the best stuff. This is a quadrant report based on the NWA MAP assessment, which we administer 3 times a year. The report visually compares students' academic growth to their achievement. The students in the red quadrant have both low achievement and low growth. The yellow represents high achievement but low growth. The orange quadrant indicates low achievement but high growth, and the green quadrant shows high achievement and high growth. Ideally, we want all students in the green, meaning that they are performing well academically and demonstrating strong growth. The chart you see here is usually typical. Students are typically distributed across all quadrants, reflecting a statistically normal distribution. Now let's look at Ms. House's student data. That's her quadrant report from last year, math. It's hard to fully grasp just how remarkable this achievement is. These data points are real students. Ms. House's class was composed of 8 students with disabilities and 7 students receiving interventions, almost half her class. These students often don't have initial advantages that help others excel, but their data points prove they can achieve success. Through Ms. House's guidance and her students' opportunity to learn from a general education teacher, accessing the most rigorous curriculum, she not only succeeded in moving them forward, but putting them on the right trajectory. This success is a direct result of the access and opportunities she provided and the high-quality instruction she delivered. Ms. House is one of 12 general education teachers in our building. Their student successes are also a direct result of the access and opportunities their teachers have provided through their delivery of rigorous instruction and high-quality instruction. They push their own robins to bluebirds. They are all our favorable factors.
Returning to Gladwell's analogy of the oak tree, our school's success stems from the unique positioning of our acorn. We've had favorable conditions to grow strong roots in a thriving tree. However, we recognize that these favorable conditions may not last forever. As challenges arise, we'll continue to find ways to adapt, nurture our community, mitigate unfavorable conditions, and provide the advantages our students need to succeed. Thank you for your time tonight. We apologize if we went a little long. We're just very proud of all the success our school has had, so thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board members to them? Okay. Thank you both for sharing the learning that is happening at Irving School.
Thank you. And I just have to say that the most fun part of that presentation, all of it was fun, of course, and great information, but watching these 4 students in the front row beam with pride as you both talked about their school was pretty amazing. So we're glad to see so many people here tonight, and we have staff here, families, students, and it is clear that you are all proud to be part of the Irving family. So thank you for a great presentation tonight, and congratulations to all of our student winners, award winners. All right, I'm going to share some information about Vision 2030 tonight. So we are going to start with a quick video here that kind of gives an overview of Vision 2030. I'll just wait till. That gives a vision, or an overview of Vision 2030, and then I'll dive a little bit deeper into it through a presentation. So Ernesto, if you want to play the video first, that'd be great.
Educators are preparing students to succeed in a world of constant innovation. The job a student will have in the future may not even exist today. So, what's needed to help students thrive in a world of unknowns? Vision 2030, a blueprint that prioritizes future-focused learning, shared accountability, and predictable funding to advance K-12 public education in Illinois. Future-focused learning means giving students a head start on post-secondary success and providing them with learning environments that are safe and secure. Imagine a world where all students are introduced to emerging career fields, discover their passion early, and earn college or vocational credits in high school. That's a future where student loan debt is less of a burden and everyone graduates ready to shine. Shared accountability means redefining student success. Just like children's physical growth, academic progress does not always happen in a linear manner. Both growth and proficiency should be measured over time to see how they're really doing. Benchmark data should be shared with teachers in real time so that quick interventions can be put in place. Lastly, school districts need predictable funding. Schools need to be able to rely on receiving full funding based on the evidence-based funding model and have the flexibility to allocate restricted funding streams towards urgent life safety needs. This is Vision 2030. To learn more and express your support, visit IllinoisVision2030.com. Together, we can fulfill the promise of public education in Illinois.
All right, so I am very excited, as I know many of you are, that Vision 2030 is finally out there and being shared across the state. This has been the work of a group of educators for quite a few months, if not over a year now, of really looking at Vision 2030. We've been able to talk a little bit about this in the education world, but it wasn't out there formally. And now that it is, it really helps set the stage for what education, the vision for education is in the state of Illinois moving forward. And that really strongly includes a partnership and work with legislators so that we are all working toward the same goals together. So Vision 2030 comes from some successes that we saw with Vision 2020 years ago. I know some of that is hard to read on the left there, but some of the goals of Vision 2020 were really making sure that we recruit and retain highly effective educators. A lot was focused on 21st century learning. Shared accountability, which is where some of the current report card pieces came from. As you already heard in the video, there's definitely discussion about how that needs to be changed. For example, real-time benchmark data information going to teachers. Right now we know with the IR assessment, it takes months for us to get that data back. And we all know that we could do much more with it if it was coming back quickly. That's one of the goals. Is that going to happen overnight? No, but it's out there and it's being worked on, and that's a huge piece for the state. The biggest probably benefit of Vision 2020 was the work around the evidence-based funding formula. It is why District 100 is able to do many of the things that we can do today, because a system that created equitable funding for our schools is strongly in place, and we have continued to grow in that way over the years. So I'm just going to kind of highlight some of the key pieces around Vision 2030. So there are 4 big areas that we are focusing on in education, and that the state is hoping that our legislators support us in as well. Keeping students safe. We know our environments need to be safe. District 100 has been working on redoing our safety protocols and procedures and increasing training. Keeping high quality educators in front of our students. Statewide, we know there's a shortage. And so statewide, we are working to recruit people into the field of education and find ways to retain teachers. You just heard Marty talk about the value of having tenured teachers who are in your building for years and continuing to build on their strengths and their professional goals, which are in turn helping our students grow. Enhancing that post-secondary success for students. A lot of these goals focus on getting to the high school level, but they really do begin in elementary and middle school. And then, as I mentioned, improving the measurement of what is working. We need to look at our data locally as well as statewide to determine what is working. Let's make sure we're really implementing that. And if it's not working, how are we making those adjustments to improve for our students? So we're going to look at these three priorities: future-focused learning, shared accountability, and predictable funding. These are the key areas in Vision 2030. We're actually going to start from predictable funding first. And that highlights there for you some of the key pieces there. The biggest piece is ensuring that we protect the funding of the evidence-based funding formula. That is key, especially to districts that are underfunded, and I'll talk a little bit more about that piece in a few minutes. Strengthening public education through pension reforms. We know that the Tier 2 pension system is challenging for teachers that are coming into the education field. We had several staff members down in Springfield talking about just that and how that needs to be reformed. That is a goal of Vision 2030. Establish equitable statewide funding resources for capital projects. We know that we have benefited from ESSER dollars to really improve the environments within our schools, and that needs to be an ongoing part of what we do. We have 100-year-old buildings in our district, and there's places all across the state that have those buildings. We've been able to invest in those buildings due to some of the funding that was available to us, but that funding is no longer here. And so how are we going to find ways to sustain that across the state? And then make sure that there's financial flexibility for all school districts. So these kind of break them down a little bit more. Obviously, the goal is to fund EBF, to look at that pension reform, to make sure there's a priority for life safety projects, and to look at school facility taxes, expanding that. There are counties in the state of Illinois that receive a 1% of the sales tax that goes back to their districts. That's not everywhere. And there's some, looking at how do we expand that to other schools across the state so that we can invest those dollars into our buildings and life safety projects. And so around that is looking at that legislative side of it and making sure that we have policies that really protect that EBF, that there's funding sources that are actually identified, right? We know there's a lot of things out there that we talk about doing, but how can the state actually make sure they've identified those resources? The pension reform I've talked about, and then enhancing that financial flexibility so we can make more decisions at the local level about what our students need. So when we talk about predictable funding, that is, something that we spend a lot of time in this district talking about. You probably go to districts across the state that never talk about evidence-based funding, and that's because they are probably funded at 100%, 150%, sometimes 200%. And so this is something that we talk about and continue to advocate for. And so prior to EBF, 169 districts in the state of Illinois were funded at less than 60% of what they needed. Today, the number is 0. So there has been a great deal of growth in that. We, as a district, when that began, as we know, we were funded at 46% adequacy. So 6% of the funding we needed to serve the students we have. We now are at 77. So we're not there, right? We're not fully funded, which means we need to keep advocating. But we went from 46 to 77%. And that has allowed us to do things like offer full-day kindergarten, encourage or have smaller class sizes, increase our social work, offer our dual language program, increase instructional coaching, increase our interventions, have that one-to-one technology program that is sustainable, offer summer school, offer enrichment programs. Those are all the evidence-based funding recommendations from the state, and we have been able to achieve all of those things on 77% adequacy. Do we have more room to grow? Absolutely. But we have increased the resources that our students have, and we have made sure, with the support of the board, that those EBF dollars go directly to the classrooms and directly to support our students. And there is a list, and you could probably see that more clearly in board book, of all of the positions that we have hired because of EBF dollars. In addition to that, we were able to address staff turnover in our last teacher contract by becoming more competitive. Are we where we want to be? No, but we're becoming more competitive, and we're attracting and we're retaining more teachers in our district. And that is really due to those investments that we've been able to make with those EBF dollars. So even with this progress that we've made, Illinois still has, there's still 75% of students are still enrolled in underfunded districts. An underfunded district is considered anything below 90% adequacy. So we are still considered an underfunded district, even with all the gains we've made. So the fact that Vision 2030 is really putting out there for everyone that we can't let this evidence-based funding go away and we can't reduce it is essential for us, and we want to continue to support that message. A big part of Vision 2030, as you'll see in the next two areas, is mandate relief. That's a picture that really tells the story. In 2000, we would get that blue book. That is all the things that are mandated by school code. That is what it looks like on the left in 2024. So significant amount of mandates that are put on schools, oftentimes without funding to support those mandates. So that is also an area that Vision 2030 aims to address. So within the shared accountability, this is another area, thinking beyond annual standardized tests to more fairly and effectively measure student success. We talked a little bit about this at the report card presentation last month, right? We currently have kind of a rank and file system of ranking schools across the state. Is that the most fair and equitable way to do that? I think there's lots of arguments that maybe not, right? So looking at how do we reform the Illinois assessment system to be more timely. So as we said, teachers get that data much more quickly. And provide more local flexibility within our districts to look at indicators that we see as important for student success, as well as reforming that mandate process to ensure that we promote flexibility and more local decision making. So these ideals really summarize that. We want to make sure we're looking at both growth and proficiency, which our current model does, but looking at that as well within and across grade levels, making the assessment process more meaningful, what we talked about, that real-time data, and really re-examining that school rating system. And policies around that is really looking to reform that assessment system, reform the current accountability, and reform the mandate process. And then finally, I left this for the last because it really is the reason, right, we do what we do, and that is focusing on student learning. So a lot of these pieces that are in place, right, we have to have funding, we have to have accountability measures, but we need to make sure that we are clearly focused on what our students need in the world that they live in today and what is going to set them up for future success. So the ideals for future focused learning is really make sure our buildings are safe. Students learn best when they're feeling safe, welcoming, belonging within a school district, which we as a district have continued to invest in. It's been one of our board goals for many, many, many years, is really that creating that safe and welcoming environment. Exposing our students more to career fields. That's something that we need to look at more at our middle school level and moving forward. So it'll be exciting to see what kinds of information and resources come out of Vision 2030 to really help with that career piece. Really making sure that we're preserving the time and resources. We can't possibly get to the number of mandates that are coming at us through legislation or through Illinois school code. And so really making sure that the state looks at what are the most important pieces that we need to do and really putting our funding and resources there. And then continuing to foster environments where we have our excellent educators that are attracted to our district, retained in our district, and continue to serve our students year after year. And within policy is really promoting those future-driven skills, so putting money into funding that is going to help with college and career exploration. Attract and retain high-quality teachers, which we know the state is working on, helping with the educator shortage and giving more opportunities for the educator pipeline. Enhancing that student safety and well-being, as I talked about, and then promoting curriculum and instructional flexibility to meet the unique needs of local communities. So when we talk about Vision 2030 and we look at District 100, so our district leadership team, right after this came out, after the tri-conference, engaged in an activity where we looked at what are the goals of Vision 2030 and where do we fall? Like, what are we already doing really well that are part of the vision for 2030, and where do we need to grow more? And so we've just begun that process of kind of digging in as a district, but when you look at each goal of the vision, promoting that future-driven skills, those are part of our current Board of Education goals, and they are part of our beliefs. And so you can see that what we do in District 100 really does align with the vision for 2030, but it can help us to spearhead the next phase of what we need to focus on in our district. And that's going to take us a little time to really dive in, look at some of those goals, do some analysis, have some conversations across all stakeholder groups within our community about where are we successful in these areas and what do we want to do to grow in some of these areas. And for each of these goals, right, enhancing student safety and well-being, there's so much in the Board of Education goals that focuses on that already. And they're really a key part of our District 100 beliefs. So this you can look at a little more closely in Board Book, but it really does show you that as a Board of Education and as a district, we are very much aligned with Vision 2030. And it really is an exciting time for us then to dive a little bit deeper into how we can continue to improve our district with these goals in mind. And this is also the final one there, promote curriculum and instruction, flexibility to meet the unique needs. So really all of the Board of Education goals fall under that area because it is about effective management of resources. We have to do all of those things in order to ensure that our curriculum and instruction is appropriate for our students. I would also say, as we highlighted tonight, our portrait of a graduate aligns very nicely with Vision 2030 and the things that we want for our students. The innovative practices are very much highlighted in the vision. Advocacy, building confidence, having students be adaptable, diving into career and college readiness, the empathy, collaboration, those are all pieces that go into that SEL component. And so it's great to see that our portrait of a graduate also aligns very well with Vision 2030. So when we talk about next steps, as a state, right, the state is asking for boards of education to pledge their support for Vision 2030. I've shared with all of you, and it's on our agenda for approval tonight, for a resolution showing that District 100 supports Vision 2030 and really in fulfilling that promise for the future of public education in Illinois. So it really starts tonight with kind of learning a little bit more about Vision 2030, adopting that resolution, and then we're going to have lots more time to look at where we are as a board, as a district, and the excitement of kind of how do we set some goals for ourselves moving into the future with the goals of Vision 2030 in mind. So there is tons of information out there. This is kind of a snapshot. If you want to read any more into those pieces, it is very much out there on the website. As a district, in the new year, we will start to send some more information out to our families, so there's more of an awareness around Vision 2030. We did send some information out to our staff, but all of that was very preliminary, right? This is all new, and so it's going to take some time, but I think the more people read read and learn about the goals of Vision 2030, the more excitement builds around what the future of education in Illinois can look like. And it's exciting that District 100 is so aligned with that and that we're going to be a part of that. Are there any questions? No? All right, perfect.
Thank you, Mary. Very good presentation.
Over to you. The next presentation, our auditor could not be here tonight, but Jenny's going to just read a brief summary from our auditor.
Thanks. So he has a one-page synopsis of I'll just read through what he has. He broke it down into two parts. One is overview of an audit. The next one is audited financial statements. So the audit summary fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024. Overview of an audit. All cash balances are confirmed with the third-party institutions. All tax revenues are confirmed with the state and county. All state and federal revenues are confirmed to ensure accuracy and proper classification. Expenditures are examined on a test basis to ensure proper authorization and classification by each respective fund, including the student activity funds. Debt is also examined and presented in accordance with annual payment obligations. Then he goes on to say audited financial statements. The financial statements and budgets are the responsibility of management, and the responsibility of the auditor is to express an opinion on them. We have audited the basic financial statements of Berwyn South School District 100, the district, as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2024, and the related notes to the financial statements, and issued an unqualified or clean opinion of the statements. The district expended over $750,000 of federal revenues and required a single audit, which requires additional testing on selected federal programs. The district received an unmodified or clean opinion related to compliance with federal programs. The district continues to be in good overall standing, ending the fiscal year with $72.9 million in fund balance, an increase from the previous year. I'll add a side note, that's on accrual basis. Cash and investments as of June 30th, 2024 were $63,303,000 for the district, which was an increase compared to the June 30th, 2023 balance of $58,754,000. During the audit, we found the district's financial records to be in excellent working order. All documents we requested were accurate, and all reconciliations were in agreement with underlying records. We did not find any deficiencies with internal controls, nor issues of noncompliance with federal programs. In addition, we did not encounter any difficulties in completing the audit for the current year. Very truly yours, Gaston Smith and Michael Esco. And they said if you have questions that you would like to ask them personally, please reach out. We can get you their contact information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job to Jenny in our business office on a very positive audit. Thank you. We had only one FOIA this month, which was submitted and also sent to the board. The dashboard is in board book. We'll note that next month we will include in the dashboard the winter map data update. So we still have kids doing makeups right now. They just finished last week. So that will be available for the board in January in the dashboard. And Jenny, I'll turn it back to you for the financial report.
Thanks. Our bank balance as of today is $31.6 million, plus we have $30.3 million in investments for a total of $61.9 million. Our revenue for the month of December to date is only $1.5 million. And of that, $1.2 million is in evidence-based funding. I predict by the time we get to the end of December, we'll have received just under $3 million. Our cash flow short, thank you. For November, our revenue for the month was $3.8 million. Our year-to-date is $27.3 million, and we're just roughly right where we should be for that time of year. Our expenses month to date was $7.7 million. Our year-to-date was 28.5 million, and our percent total is at 44%. The target is around 42, but if you remember, we had a bond payment that was in the, bless you, that was in the month of November. And that's why the expenses are higher. Our fund balance as of the end of November is 61.2 million. And then we'll go on to the grant snapshot. Okay, you can see our list of grants is getting shorter and shorter as we have the roll-off of some of the CARES grants. We have a couple little ones that are still out there that this is the last year for them. But federal and state money is continuing to come in, grants are continuing to come in on a regular basis for our regular grants that you see. On the agenda, besides the regular bills for approval, et cetera, you'll see that there's on the agenda a pre-purchase for the remainder of the Univents for Emerson. That's for our summer 2025 project. That'll be purchased through the TIPS program. And also on the agenda is to prove our liability insurance renewal through SKIP, through our insurance pool. We continue to receive an excellent price by taking advantage of the pool of several districts being in together through the SKIP pool. And that's the end of my report.
All right, thank you, Jenny, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mary. President's report, finance.
Sorry. The Finance Committee met today. We talked about, we approved the minutes from last month, and then we reviewed some of the bond structure and some of the changes in the bonds coming up, as well as looking at our current banking structure.
Yeah. Policy.
We had our policy meeting this evening. Nothing earth-shattering, just a lot of language updates for a lot of these policies. I think one of note was about curriculum content is to include instruction on climate change and the dangers of fentanyl. Also, like options for career exploration. And the other one I thought was interesting was a written notification to parents if their student is eligible for accelerated programming instruction. So,
For what kind of program?
like accelerated learning or, yeah,
Thank you.
that's it.
Thank you. Legislative report.
Yes, the Illinois General Assembly's activity has been light as legislators have been prepared or have been preparing for lame duck sessions. The Senate Education Committee did pass SB 469, which clarifies previous legislation on school trustees, but did not address significant K-12 public school issues. Another thing to note, the federal legislative committee has also have had a temporary resolution, passed in September, and they are still working together to finalize a budget, and the deadline is approaching December 20th. Don't worry, it's probably going to happen. And because I just want to say that in 3 different spaces since our last meeting, I've had teachers, I've been in rooms where teachers are asking questions about new upcoming legislation possibly affecting the Department of Education, so I wanted to just go ahead and say a little bit there. Although the president-elect plans to close the Department of Education, which oversees civil rights protections for students and manages crucial funding programs like Title I and IDEA, this would require congressional approval. However, the Illinois Association of School Boards and other vehicles that we use and monitor will continue to monitor this complex issue and keep us updated.
Thank you for that update. It's very important that we look into that because there has been a major threat that our public education may be in danger. I also want to add, and I'm not sure if any of you are aware, that today the Senate passed government offset pension, which is the GOP web, if you are familiar with that. That is the government offset pension, windfall elimination provisions, and those affect all of us that have put into Social Security and TRS. Based on the law, current law, we cannot collect both. We have to choose one or the other. But because of the Senate approving it today, which is not 100%, they approved it, but there has been some of changes that I think Senator Cruz, I don't know if he's senator or representative, he proposed. So if that passes, then what the Senate passed is not going to be in effect. So I would recommend for all of us that have, and even if you're a spouse put into Social Security, you may not be able to collect on it unless you choose to collect Social Security and not TRS. So it does affect all of us that are in public education. So I would suggest to call your senators because it is happening as we speak. We've been working on this for over 15 to 20 years, and Illinois is one of the states that do not have it, but we only need one more state to approve it, and it passes, but we're working on the federal level to work on that, so please, I encourage to call your senators. Sorry for adding that out, but I'm really excited because it's a major, all doors are opening for all of us. So, and it has to happen before January, just so you know. Correspondence.
We had one email.
Thank you. So the discussion that we're going to have now is about the joint annual conference, which is the Illinois Association of School Boards. Your take on any conference or any places that you were in? Does anybody want to say anything? What did you learn? What do you want to bring forward to us?
I would like to share that I went to a seminar about AI and what AI is going to be bringing to school systems in the near future, and the need to prepare not, just teachers and best practices around instruction when leveraging AI as a tool in the classroom, but also the financial responsibility that'll come with policy making, protection of student data, and things of this nature with regards to technology. And I think one of the cautionary tales was, that'll be like the .com boom and bust, if we aren't careful about who owns our student data, or if we use AI and put our students' data into an AI, then essentially that AI owns that data then, and if it goes bust, who knows what happens with the data. So that was interesting. I also thought very inspirational seminar about the power of belonging in schools. And so I'm hoping to, bring some, especially given this 2030 vision, which is very much aligned with that sort of commitment to connection in our classrooms and helping all students and staff feel like they belong and have something to contribute to the school environment. So maybe just, I'll be thinking about some initiatives that maybe the D100 can take to forward that.
I would want to add to that one because I was also a part of that one. And it is important, especially for students of color, to feel that they belong most of the time. And I think I was talking to either someone of you, I don't remember, about Dr. Rachel. I cannot remember her last name because it's so difficult for me to pronounce, but she's the Teacher of the Year for this Illinois, for the state of Illinois, and she's amazing in her programming that she brings to schools, and she's free if you want to bring her to any sessions. Like, honestly, that's part of her role for a whole year, for her to come into our schools and teach us about the power of belonging.
So you're hearing it here first. Dr. Rachel Mahmoud, Teacher of the Year, will be in Berwyn South 100 on February 25th at our Institute Day, working with our teachers. And we hope to bring her back to work with more teachers and possibly even extend it to our families.
Amazing. I don't know if you have met her. She's a personal friend of mine, and she is amazing. Like, tears will come to you when you hear her story and her perspective. So it's amazing. Thank you for that feedback. Anyone else?
So actually, I wasn't able to attend the seminar, but I was able to pop in at the very end of a seminar presented by District 33. And they are doing some really interesting things around quantifying and encouraging community involvement, parent involvement, but really the perspective that they're bringing in terms of involvement, I think is something that would be really beneficial here in Berwyn, to really look at how we talk about parental involvement, because I think sometimes we think about it in the terms of if the parents aren't in the school doing things with the kids on a regular basis, then they're not involved. But they've done a really great job of measuring just who's showing up to the events. You know, we do a ton of events in Berwyn, so I learned a lot and was able to connect with the woman who's spearheading that, and definitely look forward to bringing some more of that to Berwyn South.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to share any of the trainings that they attended? So I attended two. One was about dual language and how it has been changing in many districts because of the population of students. So it's basically strategizing on how to make it, to change it based on what we have now and how things are changing. So there was, I think it's a lot of work that maybe needs to be being proactive in the way that the dual language program is going on, not only in our district, but in many other districts. The other one that I attended was run by Carmen Ayala, who is now working for the Illinois Association of School Boards, and she's doing more of audits on how inclusive the school districts are. And one of the trainings that I attended that she was heading was based on recruiting and retaining teachers of color, and specifically leaders of color, and being intentional in how, and she basically spoke more about how she did it in North Berwyn. And the other two, I think it was the superintendent from North Berwyn, Dr. Smith, who was there. And there was another person, I don't remember her name and don't remember what district she came from. But it's basically about being intentional and being able so that we can, so they gave us the statistics about how many leaders, superintendents of color are in the entire United States, in the state of Illinois, and especially in the areas where many of our students are belonging. So I think that's an important conversation to be had. So just wanted to bring that up. Anyone else?
Corinne and I attended a seminar that had different legislatures, and they talked about how the think tank, the people that were the think tank behind EBF, a lot of those people are gone from the state legislature. And while it is still an active legislature, it's like the retraining and the re-education of why it's so important. So it was a very eye-opening seminar to listen to.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And that reminds me about what you spoke, Mary, about the Tier 2 pension and how we need to fix it and having that. So it's also important for us to have those conversations with our legislators. And I'm grateful that I saw a couple of District 100 employees on November 13 in Springfield. So, and we were able to speak to some. I'm still having those conversations with some senators and state representatives, and so for us to support us. And I know I'm not part of Tier 2, and many of us may not be, but it does affect all of us. So it is important because if we do not support that, then we're not going to have any teachers coming into our profession. So that is an important thing for us to do. Well, thank you. Public comments. If anyone has any public comments, please go in front of the board. We expect you to follow the guiding outlines in board policy 2 to 30. Anyone? No? Okay, thank you. So we have consent agenda. Any action items on the consent agenda may be removed from it, and the request of any one member. Items not removed may be adopted by general consent without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the board. Anyone? No? Okay, can we please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
All motion?
Second.
Thank you.
Aye or nay? Drent?
Aye.
Steinfeld, aye. Jimenez?
Aye.
Palace?
Aye.
Butler?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Any public comments? Individuals appearing before the board are expected to follow the guidelines outlined in Board Policy 230. Thank you. Board member comments.
I just love seeing what's going on in one of the Eagles' nest, right? And all the kids so many that were showcased today, and love seeing so many familiar faces on staff and how much the kids are thriving. So great presentation, well done.
I agree. Sally and Marty, thank you for your presentation. I applaud you, and thank you for bringing us the students. It is, like Mary mentioned, just looking at their faces and how happy and how proud they are of the work that all of you are doing at Berwyn. It's amazing, so thank you.
Yeah, I also want to echo the accelerated program is doing exactly what it should be, contributing back to the community, showing the students how to do that. So kudos to that whole team, and just really, really great work going on there.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a motion to adjourn? I'll motion.
I'll second.
At
At
8:18.
8:18.
Aye or nay? Steinfeld, aye. Butler?
Aye.
Drent?
Aye.
Palace?
Aye.
Jimenez?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here. We wish you a happy holidays. Please take time to take care of yourselves. It is important that we come back in January fresh and relieved and rested so that we can continue doing the work that we do with our students. So thank you.